In this lecture, we're going to see how you can expose your C++ enums for use in QML. This is actually very easy, and it is not very different from what we've been doing so far. You create your enum like this. It's a normal enum. The only special thing you need to do is to decorate it with the QEnum macro like this and pass in your enum inside. And then in your C++ code, you need to register your enum as a type that you can use in QML. The syntax is really what we've seen before, but this time we want to register it as a type you cannot create in QML. And we say QML register uncreatable type. The rest is really the same. We pass in the name of the module. In this case, it is com-blycon error level because we're going to model errors. You're going to see this in a minute. We pass in the measure and minor versions. We pass in the name we're going to use to refer to this class in QML. And then we pass in a string that is going to be displayed when a user tries to instantiate this type. This is a result of using QML register uncreatable type. When you try to create this type in QML, you're going to see this error here, and you should make it as descriptive as possible. In QML, you need to import your module, and you can access your enum values like this. We're going to go to Qt Creator and play with this. Here we are in Qt Creator. We're going to create our project. It's going to be a Qt Quick application. We're going to call it enum register uncreatable demo. Save it in the usual location. Hit next. Choose our Qt version. Choose our kit here and finish. We want to create our C++ class. The usual thing really. We call it arrow level. It's going to inherit QObject. We have our class here. Let's go to the header file. We are going to create our enum like this, enum put our semicolon here and put in the different values that we can have for this enum. We can have information, we can have warning, we can have debug and message. Let's clear this space here. The next thing we want to do is to expose this as an enum. We're going to say QEnum and say arrow value. The enum we define here. And this is all we have to do in this class here. The next thing we need to do is to go to the main CPP file and register this type. We're going to say QML register uncreatable type. And I just remembered that we need to include the class. We're going to say include arrow level. We're going to complete this. We're going to pass in com-blycon. We're going to pass in the measure and minor version. We're going to pass in the name we're going to use in QML. And we are going to pass in a string to show when somebody tries to instantiate this type. This will do. We can now go to QML and see what we can cook up here. We're going to change the title here. We want to include our module. We're going to say import com-blycon. And when this component is loaded, we're going to say console log. We can try to output any value in our enum like this. Let's run the application, and it should display the value of the enum here. Okay, here we have our application, and if you notice here, we have debug, and we are displaying 2 as the value of the enum. So if we go in the class, we can see that information is 0, warning is 1, debug is 2. Enums are just a way to wrap around integers and give them descriptive names that you can use in your application. And in this case, debug is representing 2, information is representing 0. Let's try this. You're going to say it. Let's run. We should see a 0 when the app runs, and this is what we have here. Okay, now you've seen how you can expose C++ enums and use them in QML. I want to show you a better way to do this if your class is really only exposing enums. Inheriting QObject and putting this QObject macro adds unneeded overhead to your application. If all you need is to expose your enum like this, you can take out this QObject macro, replace it with QGadget, and make the class not inherit QObject like this. We can copy this, comment it out, and do it like this. And we can take out the signals and slots as well, because they are not going to be supported if we don't have QObject here. Let's go to the CPP file and see that we can do something else. We also don't need QObject here because we are not inheriting QObject anymore. So we can actually copy this, comment it out, paste here, and take out the initialization of the parent and make it like this. We also need to update the constructor that we have in here to not use QObject like this. We're going to comment it out so that you have it, copy and comment out, and change it to not have a QObject parent like this. It's only going to have a constructor like this. Let's build the application and see that we have no boo-boos. Run and see that it works as it was working before, and this is what we had before. We are using another version of error level that uses the QGadget macro. And if you want to know more about this QGadget, you can select it, hit F1. You're going to be taken in the documentation where they talk about it. And they say that it is a lighter version of QObject for classes that do not need to inherit QObject but still want to use some of the reflection capabilities offered by the QMetaObject system. This is what it does. It is a lighter version of QObject macro here. Okay, this is all for this lecture. I hope you know how you can expose your powerful enums from C++ and make them usable in QML. In the next lecture, we're going to update one of the demos that we did before and make it use enums to control whether the counter is counting up or down. I'll see you in the next lecture.